Thanks for staying with us on the conversation. We move straight to developments in South Africa, where the Constitutional Court has declared the early release of former President Jacob Zuma from prison on medical grounds as unlawful. In 2021, Zuma was granted parole less than 2 months into his 15-month sentence for contempt of court. This decision was made after he refused to testify in an anti-corruption inquiry that took place during his tenure as president.
Now, the medical parole was approved by the prison service headed by Arthur Fraser, a close associate with the former president Jacob Zuma. It remains uncertain at this point whether Zuma will be immediately returned to prison following the court ruling. It is important to note that over 350 individuals lost their lives in the riots that erupted in response to former President Zuma's arrest. Now, joining me tonight on this discussion, we have Benedict Ferry, a legal analyst at EU's Prudential Specialist Council. He joins from Johannesburg, South Africa. We also have Omolola Zikalala, a legal practitioner, joins from Durban in South Africa. One welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Benedict. The Constitutional Court ruling on Jacob Zuma's early release from prison has raised significant concerns about the integrity of the justice system. Could you shed some light on the specific legal grounds cited by the court to deem his release unlawful?
Yeah, I wouldn't agree that it's raised significant concerns about the justice system. I think it has raised concerns around the manner in which Mr. Zuma's medical parole was processed by the Commissioner of Correctional Services, because now we've had 3 courts, from the High Court to the Supreme Court of Appeal, now all the way to the highest court of the land, the Constitutional Court, pronouncing that the manner that the medical parole was given to Jacob Zuma was unlawful. And I think that's really the crux of what the pronouncement means. In a nutshell, it means that the Correctional Services Commissioner did not have any powers to overturn the decision of the Medical Parole Board, which had recommended that Mr. Zuma not be placed on parole. And in his doing so, in his overturning that decision, he acted unlawfully. The outcome is that Mr. Zuma must now prepare himself to go back to Escort Correctional Services to serve the remainder of his incarceration period.
All right, thank you so much, Benedict. Now I'm going over to Mpumelelo, and we're looking at the legal proceedings of all of this. So what exactly should be the proper legal proceedings or criteria for granting medical parole in South Africa?
There are 2 parties which are involved. It's the commissioner himself, the one who will take the decision. However, he takes it after his consultation with the Medical Parole Board. Now, that's a committee which is made up of medical practitioners from different spheres who are going to come in, do the necessary assessment. Then after they've done the assessment, then come to the conclusion that, we have an inmate here that cannot longer be able to stay in our facilities because it does not have the medical care and the facilities that are required in order for him to be able to recover, or if it's a terminal illness, to be able to reach his last days or his or her last days in a much more comfortable manner. After that, Medical Parole Board has made their decision. They then send it back to the commission and say, this is our recommendation. Now, it can't be that the commissioner on his own is going to take a decision without it being fueled or being supported by the Medical Parole Board, who is a group of specialists that are there. Now, also looking into what we would have within our constitution of just administrative action that says, whenever you are going to take administrative action or a decision that is going to impact on a number of people or individuals, you must make sure that it is lawful, there's an enabling legislation that is allowed to do that. Most importantly, rationality, and that's where the whole, most of the contention will come in. And then last, it must be procedurally fair. All the things and procedures that must be followed to the T in order for you to make sure that whatever decision you are going to take is above board, is going to suffice any legal compliance test that might be thrown at it.
Thank you, Mpumelelo. Now, Benedict, the timing of former President Jacob Zuma's release and the subsequent riots has raised questions about a possible correlation between the two. Now, based on your analysis, do you believe there's a direct connection between his detention and the outbreak of violence? And if he's sent back, as the Constitutional Court has decided, is there a propensity for violence to break down again? Or you think the South African police services and state institutions that are responsible for keeping the peace would have learned lessons from the initial outbreak of violence to prevent such a reoccurrence?
I would certainly,
yes.
yes. I would certainly believe that, the president issued a statement today to say that he is, as far as he's concerned, law enforcement agencies and security services, etc., in the country are well prepared. So he wasn't necessarily concerned that something like this might lead to the same type of violence that we experienced last year this time. So I think we have that to go for, but I do acknowledge that there is a bit of anxiety in the country at the moment, given what has been happening over the last week or two with truck torchings, etc., that might fuel a sense of dis-ease or discomfort that, we might lead into the same situation as last year. But certainly as far as the president is concerned and the statement he put out today, law enforcement agencies and security services are ready and, there shouldn't be a problem whatsoever.
Thank you so much, Benedict. Now, while the consequences are, coming right in the face of all Africans and even South Africans, let's look at the justice system. And we're seeing that this ally of Zuma, Arthur Fraser, he played a significant role in granting Zuma's medical parole. So what does this ruling signify about the independence and impartiality of the prison service and its leadership? Are there any systemic changes needed to address such concerns?
I think especially on this one, there's nothing really that you can do because the Act is there. It does dictate what is it that should be done. And in instances in which there's been non-compliance, the aggrieved party can always go to court and have that decision overturned, as the Democratic Alliance as well as other institutions have done so. But what I think we need to look at in terms of the Correctional Services Act is instances in which maybe there might be a reconsideration of certain parole or certain early releases that might be there. Also taking into cognizance that someone who does not walk into prison on their own, there's a level of punishment in the sense that at the end of the day, you should enjoy some sort of punishment and rehabilitation so that you come out with being a better person. But all in all, I would say that the basics of the things that have been there have been covered in the applicable legislation to the Correctional Services Act. And it's simply a question of saying, implement it in a manner in which it ought to be implemented in. Maybe another sort of loophole that should be there or that has been discovered by this whole saga is make sure that you have someone within that position who fully understands what his or her powers are and get someone who is qualified enough to fully understand the legal provisions that are there so that he can be able to execute his duties properly.
Thank you, Omolola. Back to you, Benedict. The anti-corruption inquiry that former President Zuma refused to testify in played a significant role in his imprisonment, the Zondo Commission. Could you elaborate on the long-term implications of this ruling for the Zondo Commission itself and the fight against corruption in South Africa?
I think the ruling is a good one to show generally that court orders must be obeyed in the country, and it doesn't matter who you are who is subject to the court order. The fact that you're a former president or any other senior, current, or ex-government official will not absolve you from having to meet your legal duties that have come around from a court order. So I think that's important as a testament and a stamp in favor of the rule of law. I think it is also important, as your question is alluding, to indicate that, the Zondo Commission was serious. And in the sense that, the corruption allegations and the state capture allegations that were leveled squarely against the president, I think it's clear that, it wasn't a joke, and the president is held to account in some form or another. The former president, rather, is held to account in this shape, rather than being seen to evade his obligations, firstly, to testify there, and then also to, respond to the court order that was granted against him as a result. So I think it serves as a good indicator of the fact that there is seriousness and an intent to meet the spirit of the Zondo Commission and also to actually hold Mr. Zuma accountable. So I think that actually bodes well for the justice system, and the optics look good in this respect.
Now, quickly, Benedict, I'm going to stay with you and still looking at the justice system. I mean, it's not only former President Jacob Zuma who has been in the eye of the storm. You also see even the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, talking about the Pala Pala Famgate scandal. Even though the watchdog has cleared him of all wrongdoings, we see all the opposition parties saying that this is wrongly done. So what does it say about the justice system in South Africa? And how would you evaluate the relationship between former President Jacob Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa?
So I think as a common thread across both presidents, past and present, is the fact that South Africa's administrative agencies struggle to make decisions in a manner that is required by the Constitution and the law. In South Africa, any administrative action must be fair, must be rational, and must be reasonable. And what we're seeing with Arthur Fraser is an administrative action that was completely arbitrary and outside of the boundaries of the law. And I think, in any sort of state department, I think you're seeing that there's an incapacitation, rather, a general trend where, government departments and administrators are not fully able to give effect to what is required from them from a legal perspective. I'm not surprised because it is a young constitution. In fact, a lot of what we're traversing now in these matters that involve all of these higher functionaries are testing areas of the Constitution that we've never come to test. So it's not surprising. And I think, with time, and with a more professional civil service, and as we get to understand what is required from our Constitution and the supporting legislation, hopefully the administrative function in South Africa will improve. But certainly what it says is that there's great, vast room for improvement in this particular respect.
Thank you, Benedict. Now, Mpumelelo, we're in the penultimate year to a general election in South Africa. Former President Jacob Zuma still enjoys a loyal support base within the ruling party, the African National Congress. How might this ruling impact the relationship between the party and its supporters who remain steadfastly loyal to Zuma, potentially creating an internal crisis or sort of tensions between these two camps, the Ramaphosa camp and the Zuma camp? Like they always say, a house divided cannot stand on its own.
I think you have a membership of the African National Congress that has sort of matured to understanding that the judiciary is independent and does take independent decisions. You will find certain instances where you find people that do not agree with what the court has stated, but most importantly, they'll then say, we want to respect what the court has stated, but we're still going to maintain those relations. You've seen even the political leadership within the province of KwaZulu-Natal saying that we are still going to keep on contacting the former president, speaking with him, and making sure that he's able to garner support from the ANC in KZN. You also have the alliance partners, for example, SANCO, this has stated that let's take him within our wings and he can be one of the conveners of the organization, so that he's able to enjoy his political life and be able to enjoy the support that is there. So it might be strange, yes, I agree, but I think we are slowly learning that the rule of law is important. In instances where we would criticize the court, we would do so, but in instances where we have to respect the rule of law, and which is what the members of the public are doing now, that certainly is what they are doing.
Definitely, I agree with you, Mpumelelo, that the rule of law is important. And I'm going to bring this question back to Rashid. I mean, I know that this is an important ruling we've seen so far, but at the same time, when we look at profiling of, or rather the arrest of high-profile individuals in South Africa and Africa generally, it still puts a question mark on it. So do you really believe that we would necessarily see the arrests of Jacob Zuma or him put in prison? Because first of all, we had corruption charges, and we also had a case where he was sent to 15 months for contempt of court where he did not appear in court. So do you really believe that Zuma will be arrested and put in prison with this ruling?
No, not necessarily on this one. Remember what the court is stating is two legs of it. The first leg is to say on a technical basis, yes, you should go back to prison because the ruling or the decision that was taken to get you out of prison or to be released on parole is something which is wrong and cannot be condoned. But secondly, then the court then stated, we are not going to be the legal advisor of the SCA or even dictate to the correctional services as to how exactly to conduct its services. The thing which is going to guide you at the end of the day will be the Correctional Services Act, and that tells you when is a person a detainee, tells you why are you detaining individuals and the purpose thereof. And if you look at it, there's something which is called temporary leave, which is then provided to inmates, in which the same could be provided to the former president in terms of saying, you see, on the basis of which you are not the naughty party, let me put it in that context. You are not the person that let yourself out of prison or sign yourself or press the green button so that you are let out. So we do not allow that you will be punished twice. I, as a Correctional Services Commissioner, I'm going to take the prerogative of allowing you, giving you leeway, which is power that I do have and I can exercise so that you're able to be released. And I'm going to take the 2 months in which outstanding in your sentence as being a period in which you're also detaining. But just to make sure that I do not have any counsels or anyone taking you back to court, those 2 months will then be spent while you are outside, even though you are detained. So on a practical basis, I do not see the former president going back to jail or being incarcerated. I think we'll still continue to build live about his business as he so wishes. It's just that you have to be clinical in the manner in which you're going to release it, because there are other contenders or stakeholders that are there. For example, political parties who can jump at the opportunity of going to court if there's any non-compliance with the applicable act.
Thank you, Pumelelo. Now, Benedict, as we begin to wrap the conversation, in light of this ruling, are there any potential legal consequences of further actions that could impact Jacob Zuma personally? Does he still have room to appeal this judgment, or has he used up all his cards that are available for him to avoid incarceration?
He's used up all his cards, unfortunately. This is the end of the road for him as far as this is concerned. He's obviously not in the country at the moment. His foundation has given a statement that he's in Russia receiving medical treatment. But certainly I expect that the moment he comes back to South Africa, there will be arrangements made between him and the Correctional Services Department relating to him presenting himself into that escort correctional facility. And then only after that, I think, then he can consider making an application to the commissioner for him to take into account the period that has passed between when he was incarcerated and now. But until he's actually in that correctional facility, I think the options for Jacob Zuma are actually non-available at this point in time.
Now, staying with you, Benedict, I mean, for our viewers across the continent, this is quite earthquaking and shocking that former president belonging to the same party with the current president, they're loggerheads with each other. They still belong to the same party. It's either there's one lawsuit or another lawsuit against each other. Are there no internal mechanisms within the ruling African National Congress to, sort of appeal to both of them to shift their swords? Because if it's not this, it's the Billy Downer case and all of that, and it doesn't put the ANC in a good light, or the rule of law supersedes any sort of personal relationship or benefits they could get from this.
Yeah, I agree. It's very shocking to see 2 presidents, one former and one present, at loggerheads in this particular way. I think the ANC has been struggling with factionalism for a while, even before the time of either of these presidents, and there has been an ideological contestation in that party for a while. And the reality is, as we've come to know, is it is linked to access to resources and access to lucrative state contracts, etc. We've had the Zondo Commission that has confirmed what the problems are in that respect and how politics comes to interfere in the efficient running of the country without corruption. So it is deeply concerning that, even beyond the Zondo Commission, we still have situations such as this, and even the Chief Justice himself saying that he's not convinced that the politicians in Parliament actually want to address and fix based on his recommendation. So it's deeply concerning, and to have, the most senior judge in the country accuse another arm of government of potentially not taking, strong enough action in this respect, I think just tells you something quite disturbing about the ANC.
Thank you so much, Benedict. Definitely we'll look at how things pan out in South Africa. Once again, thank you so much for sharing so much insight. Benedict Fury, legal analyst, jurisprudential specialist counsel, for joining us from Johannesburg, South Africa. And also a very big thank you to you, Omolola Zikalala, legal practitioner, joining us from Durban, also in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is where we drop the anchor on today's program. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. I am Benga Boro. See you next time on The Conversation.
I am Rita Omodia. Till next week. Bye-bye.